right, so we'll go ahead and get started here. So welcome to today's webinar. We're glad to have you here and having you join us for IFAI's series of scaling up trainings discussing agricultural production tools and economic forecast models to help build strong tribal food businesses and food systems throughout Indian country. So this webinar will explore the components of the Business Model Canvas, which is a popular tool used by entrepreneurs to understand the fundamentals of their business idea. So before we get started, I do want to go over some housekeeping. All attendees will be muted during the presentation. However, you can use the control panel to submit your questions using the questions dialog box. And towards the end of the presentation, we will set aside some time to go through some of those questions. And also, just as a quick note, we will post this webinar recording to our Indigenous Food and Agriculture Initiative YouTube channel, as well as we will follow up with an email that includes the webinar recording itself and the PowerPoint presentation. So we'll also share it on our social media. So you should be able to have access to this recording and to this presentation afterwards. So with that, I will go ahead and get started and give a quick overview of our organization, the Indigenous Food and Agriculture Initiative, and then I'll present today's presenter. So at IFAI, ultimately what we like to focus on is putting tribal sovereignty and food sovereignty. And our work is about promoting healthy food systems, cultural food traditions, and we support diversified economic development by providing strategic legal analysis, policy research, and educational resources to empower Indian country. So our work is about supporting tribal sovereignty over food systems in order to foster sustainable, tribally driven solutions to really build vibrant food economies across Indian country. And today I'm happy to introduce Maria Givens. So Maria Givens is an enrolled member of the Coeur d'Alene tribe in northern Idaho. She graduated from the University of Washington. From 2015 to 2016, she served as a Mark Hatfield Fellow and worked in the Washington, D.C. office of U.S. Senator Jeff Merkley from Oregon. She later worked as a policy analyst for the National Congress of American Indians and served as the organization's lead on the 2018 Native Farm Bill Coalition. She is currently a graduate student at the University of Colorado Boulder, working towards her Master's of Environment, specializing in sustainable food systems, and is expected to graduate in December of 2019. So we're excited to have her here today. And Maria, I will turn it over to you.
Great, thanks, Whitney. And thanks to all the participants who are here spending their day learning about the Business Model Canvas. So going into today's agenda, we're going to first start with effectual thinking, how to think like an entrepreneur. And then we're going to move into spend the bulk of our time on the Business Model Canvas and walking through the 9 separate building blocks of this model, and also trying to find ways to apply it to Indian country so that prospective entrepreneurs in Indian country can use this really well regarded tool in their future businesses. Then we're going to sum it all up with a few takeaways for prospective Native entrepreneurs, and then open it up for questions at the end. Great, so effectual thinking, how to think like an entrepreneur. Basically, effectual thinking means using the means that you already have and allowing specific goals to emerge as time goes on. This is the opposite of causal thinking, think cause and effect. Causal thinking starts with a goal in mind. And effectual thinking doesn't have a straightaway goal in mind, but uses the tools that you already have to imagine a goal, a new goal, or something being open to things as time goes on. And in essence, entrepreneurial thinking means learning how to adapt to leverage these adaptations for further success. So I'll go through managerial thinking, strategic thinking, and effectual thinking here with these diagrams. Managerial thinking, this is your average managerial thinking. Say you're running a pizza shop and you have someone who's good at cooking and someone who's good at math. You put the person who's good at math on the register and someone who's good at cooking in charge of cooking the food. And this is all to serve that given goal of providing food to your customers. Strategic thinking, this means generating new means to achieve a predetermined goal. A lot of tribes create strategic plans for their tribe, and the given goal is to promote more success of the tribe. But understanding that new means might come about as you go through that process. And effectual thinking is kind of the opposite of managerial thinking. It's using what you have. Maybe you have a piece of land, maybe you have a friend that's really good at computer programming or graphic design, and imagining new ends with those means that you already have. So think of Microsoft, for example. When Bill Gates started Microsoft, he did not think about creating an Xbox. But as time went on, he had all of the tools, he had the engineers, he had all of the people who could create a video gaming console. And then that was an imagined new end on top of the existing ends that they had already sought out with, making Microsoft software. So going into the business model canvas, this is a really popular tool that entrepreneurs all over the country and the world use to really refine their business idea. It comes from these two books, both authored by Osterwalder and Pigmuir. The Business Model Generation is a larger book with the Business Model Canvas as one chapter of it. And then there's also another book called Value Proposition Design that really digs into what a value proposition is. And we'll be going into both of these today. Both can be accessed at strategizer.com or can be purchased as books. We definitely want to give a proper citation to both of these works because this is building off of the work they had already done. So, Business Model Canvas. It's basically a tool for prospective entrepreneurs to hone their business idea. Existing business owners can also use this to understand the fundamentals of their business. Maybe you have an existing business and you want to improve it or move it in a better direction. You can also use these tools to inform your existing business or to get a firm grasp on your new business idea. It can provide the fundamental elements of a business plan. A business plan is a much longer document than the Business Model Canvas, but the Business Model Canvas really can help you flesh out these ideas to make sure that your business will actually have customers, generate revenue, and also understanding all the costs associated with your business. It's also known as the Lean Startup Canvas or the Sustainable Startup Canvas. There are many different ways you can categorize this, but it is pretty much the standard for entrepreneurs looking to create a new business. So we're going to walk through the 9 different building blocks of the Business Model Canvas. We'll go into all of these in much greater detail, but just to be a roadmap for the rest of our discussion. First, we're going to start with customer segments. You have to have somebody to buy your good or service. So starting with your customers is really critical to understand who you're going to sell to. Your value proposition is probably the most important part of this whole Business Model Canvas. It describes the bundle of products and services that create value for your customer. This is why a customer would come to you instead of the other person. Channels. This is how you deliver that value proposition. Do you do it, how do you reach your customers? Over social media? Do you reach them through email lists? Do you reach them at a farmer's market? Or do you deliver straight to their house? How do you communicate with those customers? And then customer relationships. How do you gain new customers? How do you keep existing customers? And how do you keep existing customers to buy more of your product? And so these first 4 are really customer facing. And so we're going to dig into those ones first and then move on to the back end of what is your business? What are you doing behind the scenes to make sure that your business is running smoothly? Revenue streams, this is the cash that a company generates from each customer segment. Key resources, the important assets that you need to make your business model work. Key activities, this is where a lot of prospective entrepreneurs want to go first, but in the Business Model Canvas, it's actually number 7. The key activities are the most important things a company must do to make a business work. So this is the doing part of your business. But really, you need to focus on customers first so that you can make sure that you have someone who's actually going to buy into what you're doing. Then thinking about key partnerships of suppliers or partners or people that will be able to help you out as you move along with your business. And then lastly, thinking about costs. All businesses have costs, whether it's rent, whether it's supplies, and we'll unpack all of these in further detail. So this is what the business model canvas looks like. We went through each of these, and the canvas really is a way for you to plug in your ideas for each of these things and how they relate to each other. And this is a more animated version, and this is one that would be helpful if you're really thinking of doing this, to maybe use some Post-it notes and put them up, or jot down ideas, or work with a few people who are interested in your business and building up your business with you. So let's start with customer segments. Customers are the most important part of the business. You need to have customers to buy what you're selling. If you do not have customers, your business may not be around too long. So these are the different groups of people or organizations or other businesses that you reach out to and that you serve. There are different types of customer segments. The mass market, this is anyone and everyone. This is how electronic companies use the mass market idea. They don't target specific people for specific products. The niche market, this is specialized, this is specific, this is focusing really in on who these customers are, and maybe your new business only wants to focus on working mothers or parents or something like that. And then moving into segmented customer segments, these are folks that have different needs and different problems, but you can serve both of these to customers. So think about at a bank, you have your normal banking, you also have investing, that's another service that the bank provides, and then also a mortgage for homeowners, that's another service. So the needs and products of those different things for those different customers are different, but they all fall under that same one business. So those are different segmented businesses. There's also diversified. These are two or more unrelated customer segments. So think about Amazon retail, and then there's Amazon cloud, where people can, businesses in particular, large businesses, can store their data and information. That's really different than online retail through Amazon. But again, they still fall under the same business. So an example of segmented customer segments in the Indian ag sphere would be, say you want to sell your products at the farmer's market and to restaurants. Those are different customer segments, but you're selling the same product and getting the same business, but you're also selling to different people with different needs, and the needs of someone at a farmer's market are going to be different than if you're selling to a restaurant. So those are things you definitely need to consider when you're really thinking about who are your customers. And it's okay to have just one customer segment, or maybe you have multiple, but for each customer segment, you're going to want to fill out this business model canvas for that specific customer segment, because there are different needs, different resources, different activities that you're going to be doing for each of those different customer segments. So once you've identified the customer segment, then you can move on into the other aspects of this. So you really want to get to know your customers well. This is where market research comes in. Think about geographies or demographics. Think about how these people will interact with your business. Who are you selling to? What jobs do they need to do? And how can you help them with that? At the end of the day, businesses help people and create value for people. And so finding out who these customers are and really understanding them, you can better serve them, and then you'll be able to beat out your competition by serving the needs of those customers better. So that leads us into the value proposition. The value proposition is the most important part of this entire business model canvas. Value proposition is the bundle of products and services that create value for that customer segment. Again, if you have two customer segments, you're going to want to have two different value propositions and move on from there. There's some examples of adding value for your customers here on the screen. Newness, maybe you're offering something that had never been offered before. A lot of native agriculture products will be new to a lot of people. So this is an area that Indian agriculture can really utilize to build up from the newness area of a value proposition. Performance, that's doing bigger and better things. Customization is tailoring to specific needs of the people. Maybe someone is gluten-free or has an allergy, and if your product can be customized to fit that specific need, you'll be able to use that in your value proposition for customization. Getting the job done, a lot of times people don't have the means or the time or the energy or the knowledge to get a certain job done, and your business can do that. Think of like a mechanic fixing a car. Design, this is where creativity kind of comes in. This is where fashion or graphic design or these types of products and services can come in. Brand and status, I think we all know someone who has fancy shoes or a fancy watch that they wear because that brand has a certain status associated with it. And that value is assigned by that person, that customer. So that is something that you can start thinking of, is what is your brand and what kind of status does that brand hold? And then price. Price is an important part of the value proposition. If you're going to be looking for low prices to be part of your value proposition, you need to be very careful so that all of the other aspects of your business model can accommodate that, because you'll need to make sure that your volume is at high enough numbers to account for that price. And that will have ramifications for your resources, for your relationships, for all the other things down the line in this business model canvas. Risk reduction, that's how insurance companies provide value to their customers. Accessibility, making something available that previously people didn't have access to. This is like a rural grocery store, or bringing things out into rural areas. And then convenience. This is what we're seeing all across the board in food in America, is people want the most convenient food and are willing to pay more for this added convenience. So you can create a mix and match of these different ideas in your value proposition, how you create value for your customer segment. So this is the value proposition canvas. So start on the right side and think about your customer segment. Who is that customer? What are their jobs? Is your customer a working parent, and their jobs are to get food on the table for their 4 kids? Think about the gains. What are the gains for that? What would make them happy? Something that's convenient, that's easy, that's healthy. That would make that customer happy to feed their children. Pains, something that makes it difficult for them to get that job done would be, it takes time to go to the grocery store. It takes money to go to the grocery store. It takes time and energy to cook. So think about how your customer would interact with your product or with your service, and then move on to your value proposition on the left side of the screen. Building out your value proposition, what products and services do you provide that can help that customer? So think of maybe like a meal kit, something that's semi-prepared that will make it easy for that working parent to feed their children. The gain creators, if you have a semi-prepared meal kit for that customer, you would make it easy. You would make one less trip to the grocery store, and making a healthy selection for them so that they don't have to use their mental energy to find that healthy solution. And then you relieve that pain of the time and the money and the energy it takes to cook dinner. So thinking of how your business fits in lockstep with what your customer wants and needs and the jobs that they have to get done. That's what this value proposition canvas is good for. And understanding what your business can do for each different customer segment. So like I said earlier, if you have more than one customer segment, you would want to build out more than one value proposition canvas for each customer segment. So moving on into channels. Channels are how you communicate and reach your customer segment. Like I said earlier, this can be through communication or distribution or with sales. Communication, maybe you see something on your social media and that makes you want to buy that product again or remind you of that product. Distribution, this is how your product or service gets to the customer. Is it a home delivery or is it at a farmer's market? Do you deliver straight to the restaurant or do they come pick it up? Think about how you interact with that customer and make the most out of these touch points that you have. And sales channels, these are if you have an appointed sales representative to work with that given customer or on that account. So really, channels can serve several functions. They can raise awareness among customers about a company's products and services. This is where marketing comes in. They can help customers evaluate a company's value proposition. If you are offering something really cool for a specific customer segment, you want to give that customer time to figure out how it actually works and how it can fit into their daily lives. This is how you physically deliver that value proposition to your customers. And also by creating that post-purchase customer support, giving them a number they can call if they're not completely satisfied with your product, or how to reorder, finding those channels to keep that relationship going. And that brings us into customer relationships. These are the types of relationships a company establishes with their given customer segment. So in the beginning, if you're starting out a new business, you want to focus on customer acquisition. This is gaining new customers, getting new people in the door. And this is where a lot of energy is spent for new businesses. Once you have those customers, you want to retain them. You want to make sure that they keep coming back to you. And how do you retain them as customers to make sure that their business stays with you? And then once you have retained those customers, boosting sales, trying to find ways for them to buy more of your product. Maybe you have a new product line coming out and you want to make sure that your valued customers who have been with you from day one get a special deal or get a sneak peek on something. This is where you build those relationships and make sure that these people know that they're valued by your company. And so both channels and customer relationships go straight into delivering your value proposition to your customers. Revenue. Every company needs to generate revenue. Revenue streams are the cash a company generates from each customer segment. So basic business fundamentals 101, revenue minus costs equals earnings. So you need to find ways to get cash coming through the door. So there are a lot of different ways to generate revenue. The most obvious one is asset sale. You go to the grocery store, you buy a product for $3 and it's listed at $3. That asset is now yours. There's a usage fee. You can use a usage fee. Say you have agricultural equipment and you provide a service for other folks in the area to use your equipment, but you can charge a small fee for that if that's what's appropriate for you. Subscription fees. Subscription fees are a huge new revenue area that you see with a lot of online folks. This is how Netflix makes their money. Every single month, they provide a service to you, a consistent service, but they charge you a subscription fee every single month. Lending, renting, leasing, these are pretty self-explanatory. You provide a place or a space or a physical asset, and folks pay a price for that to use that. So types of pricing mechanisms. There are a lot of different ways that you can charge for your good or service. So Fixed pricing is prices that don't change. They stay fixed. These are a menu. When you go to McDonald's, you expect the dollar menu to stay at $1. Dynamic pricing changes a lot. This is what people in the agricultural sector are really familiar with. Negotiating, bargaining, trying to find an agreement between two different partners. Yield management. This is what farmers see every single year, how to manage the yields, and the price depends on what's happening at the time of the purchase. Real-time market. This is working within the commodities market, and there's a market that is establishing the price that's changing based off of supply and demand. Auctions. This is price determined by competitive bidding. This is like a livestock auction. There are different ways within agriculture that we use these dynamic pricing tools. But there are other ways that you can move from dynamic pricing that changes all the time, into fixed pricing. So list price, this is one you're most familiar with. You go to the grocery store and something is $3 and you pay $3. Product feature dependent. This means that the price depends on the number or the quality of the value proposition features. Maybe you can sell organic corn for a lot more than you can conventional because the product is different and the quality is different. Customer segment dependent. This means the price depends on the type and the characteristics of a customer segment. Maybe you sell differently, your prices are different for people who come visit you at the farmer's market compared to people that you're selling to that own restaurants or other businesses. Those are different customer segments, and you will price those things in a different way. Volume dependent. This is how Costco and Sam's Club make their money. You go in and you purchase higher volume, but the prices are different because of those increased volumes. So that's revenue streams. Revenue streams go beneath that customer segment because that is how you make money, is through your customers. So moving into key resources. Key resources are the most important assets to make your business model work. So these are the means that we talked about in the very beginning, the things that you have that can make your business grow. They could be physical, they could be a piece of land, they could be a facility, they could be a barn that you have, or vehicles, or machinery, or storage. And those resources could be leveraged to move your business forward. A lot of people who have a barn are converting those into hospitality rooms and renting those out on Airbnb. That is a resource that can lead to a brand new business for you. Intellectual resources. These are proprietary knowledge, know-how, personal relationships that you have. People, farmers and ranchers in Indian country have so much intellectual resources, and I really want to make sure that folks are not discounting these intellectual resources because they understand their land. They understand how it works with each other. And if you've been on your land for a long time, you know what makes it a good year or a bad year. You understand all of these systems that are at play, and these are intellectual resources that shouldn't be counted short. Moving into human resources, these are folks that you employ or folks that are willing to help you. Maybe you have a family member that's really good at computers that would be willing to help build a website for you, or someone who's really good at graphic design that's your friend that would be willing to help you out. These are human resources. And financial resources. So that's money in the bank, lines of credit. Maybe you have access to certain grants that would provide money. These financial resources can be leveraged to make your business model work and move it forward. That's where it is on the canvas. Moving into key activities. Like I said earlier, a lot of times when you talk to prospective entrepreneurs, they really want to jump straight into key activities and don't want to think about the customer first. This business model canvas really wants people to consider customers before and what the customers want to do before jumping into the activities. And The key activities are these most important things that a company must do to make its business work. There are different types. Production, most agriculture is production. You're creating something and delivering a product in substantial quantities or of superior quality. This is also like manufacturing, or say you're scaling up and creating salsas or other value-added products. You are creating that product. This is under the production line. Problem solving. This is coming up with new solutions for individual customer problems. So maybe you're in the consulting area, or you're helping other people using your mind instead of creating a product. This would be in the problem solving area. And then the platform and network way of doing these key activities, this is platform management or service provisioning or platform promotion. eBay makes its money by having a working website, and everything else follows after that. So they really only maintain their platform and move on from there. So that's where it is within the canvas, is the key activities. Again, these are the key things that you have to do to make sure that your business runs. If you're a farmer, your key activity is farming. If you're a rancher, your key activity is ranching. But also considering if you're expanding your business in different ways, if you're creating a value-added product on your land, like maybe creating salsa, making salsa is also a key activity. Packaging your product is also a key activity. Delivering your product to the customers is another key activity within this. So thinking about listing all of those key activities out and making sure that you're able to actually follow through on them, given your set of means and your value proposition and your channels, this is a really good place to evaluate what you're going to do with your business. Okay, moving into key partnerships. So partnerships are the network of suppliers and partners that make your business model work. This doesn't necessarily have to be your business partner that owns 50% of your business. Think of partnerships more as relationships that are not with customers. These are the strategic alliances between non-competitors. Maybe you don't have the capacity to transport all of your goods somewhere. You have a strategic alliance with someone who's a distributor or someone who is in the trucking industry. And maintaining that partnership and that relationship is really important. This could also take shape in like a co-op. So a strategic partnership between competitors, folks that maybe are growing the same thing, but coming together to create a value-added product, or just any kind of product, would be a really key partnership within the agriculture space. This can also be joint ventures. Maybe you own your farm and are doing your farm, and then you go with someone and create a joint venture for a new business that utilizes what you grow on your farm. Maybe it's something different than your farming business. And then if you're going into any value-added area, you need to have really good relationships with your buyers and your suppliers. Maintaining reliable supplies from folks that are providing you with a product that you need to turn into your final product is really crucial. And maintaining those supplier relationships will help you move forward in that way. And key partnerships are over on the other end. These are the personal relationships that you need to think about that are not your customer. See, it's kind of in the same place that customers are on the right side. So our last one, thinking about cost structure. All businesses have costs. And you need to think very clearly about whether your business is cost-driven or value-driven. I'd say a lot of Native American agriculture businesses might be value-driven, creating value within reservation communities to provide economic development. Those are values that you may hold as a producer, but would also create value for your customers. And so understanding if you're driven solely based on cost and being a low-cost business, or if you are willing to go not be the lowest cost business, but because you really focus on values. That's a question you really need to consider for this cost structure. So thinking about cost structure, there are two different types of costs, fixed costs and variable costs. Fixed costs are the costs that remain the same no matter what your volume is. So this will be your rent. Rent may always be X amount a month. Doesn't matter if you're selling 100 or 1,000 units. It'll remain the same. And variable costs are the costs that change depending on your volume. This would be like packaging or electricity if you're manufacturing something, or labor costs. And as a general rule of thumb, you want to keep your fixed costs as low as possible. So keeping your fixed costs low through utilizing your existing means. Maybe you have land that you can work off of, and then you don't have to pay rent to someone else. Using something like that could keep your fixed costs low. And also thinking of economies of scale and economies of scope. These are the cost advantages that businesses enjoy when output expands or due to a larger set of operations. So economies of scale, this is like when your output expands, you can sell in higher volume. Okay, so lastly, this is what we've gone through every single component of the business model canvas and see how it all fits together with the customers on the right side and your value proposition in the middle. You deliver to your customers through your channels and your customer relationships, and through that, you gain revenue at the very bottom. And then on the back end of your business, you have your key resources that help you with your key activities, the things that you have to do to make sure that your business is running smoothly. Your partners can help you out and help build up your key activities and your resources. And then understanding on the back end what your costs are. These things like rent and electricity, you're going to need to be paying the bills to make sure that your business can move forward. So the main takeaways from this business model canvas is the most important building blocks are the value proposition, your costs, and your revenue streams. Remember, revenue minus costs equals earnings. That's the money that you can take home at the end of the day after you've paid the bills. And it's always good to begin to start understanding your customers. Building your business based off of your customers will make sure that you always have that market. You always have that person who's willing to buy from you. Because you can have a great idea with no customers, and that's not going to be a business. And also being realistic about your given means and leveraging them to imagine the new ends. This is the entrepreneurial thinking we were talking about at the very beginning, where you can understand what are the assets that you already have, that you already can utilize to make sure that you can have something really cool later on. And there are a lot of assets within Indian country to utilize, and the ends are unimaginable. So I wanted to open this up for questions, and I know Whitney is going to help me with this. So if you have a question, you can type it into the dialog box for questions, and we'll make sure to answer them.
That's right. Thank you, Maria. So you can also raise your hand using the GoToWebinar control panel. And if you raise your hand, I can unmute your line so you can ask your question as well. So I will keep an eye out for those things. But also just wanted to share a quick reminder that this PowerPoint presentation and this webinar recording will be available on our Indigenous Food and Agriculture Initiative YouTube channel, as well as we will follow up with an email broadcast. If you are not subscribed to our Indigenous Food and Agriculture email newsletters listserv, you can sign up on our website at indigenousfoodandag.com. We send out some really great updates, and we will also be continuing some of these scaling up trainings, so you can learn about when those are coming up. I do have one quick question, and it is, What is an example of a diversified market in regards to ag?
A diversified market. So thinking about diversification within ag, there are a lot of different ways that you can go. Say you grow vegetables and you can sell those in a way where it's just the raw produce, or you can create something more value added, like canning those vegetables or selling them to different people. So thinking about a diversified way to sell to different customers, and there are a lot of different ways you can do this within agriculture.
Awesome. And then we do have another question about, so can someone use this Canvas model with food safety and talking to FSA, and can this model be utilized to speak with investors?
Yes, definitely. Actually, IFAI is going to be putting out a toolkit and workbook on this shortly. And so we're going to find a way for prospective entrepreneurs to be able to use this in a way where it can communicate all of your business ideas in a way for investors. I will say that the business model canvas is short of an official business plan. There are a lot of great resources on Small Business Administration's website about business plans, and that's usually what banks require to provide loans. But this is a great way to communicate your business to folks that are interested in investing. And also, this will be able to populate a lot of your business plan once you have that going.
Great, thank you. And we also just have some exciting takeaways from this. So there's a community that's working on developing a garden. So they're actively pursuing other avenues of healthy food access. So this was helpful for that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, another question. So what is a good amount of time to spend using this model? And sort of how that approach begins?
Yeah, I mean, you could, a lot of times people suggest setting aside a day or two with your key people who you want involved in your business to really flesh this out. I did this in an MBA class here in Colorado, and just on top of different classes and work obligations, I was able to complete this in about a week, but I wasn't able to sit down for a full few hours on this. So, you know, it will take a bit of time to really go through it. And I definitely suggest having the people who you want involved in the room with you when you're doing this, because they might have ideas, something new might come out of it when you're talking. And so, yeah, I would put aside at least 2 to 3 hours, and if not more time than that. And it can also change over time as well. Maybe you're thinking of a new customer segment, and like I said at the beginning, doing this for each customer segment is going to be really important so that you can make sure that you're providing all of the different tools that you need to for that customer. So if you already have done one, but you're expanding to a new customer segment, think about doing this again for that new customer.
Great. All right. Does anyone else have any more questions that they'd like to have answered? Again, like I said, this will be available through our email and through our website. So if you have any more specific questions, also feel free to reach out to our team here at IFAI. Our contact information is on our website, so you can find our email addresses there and we can connect you with Maria. But I think if that's all the questions, Maria, if you have anything else to add before we close out?
Yeah, just a reminder that IFAI will be releasing a toolkit and a workbook on this to help you work through the business model canvas on your own. And that'll be coming out soon. So if you're on the IFAI email list. You'll for sure get an email about it when we're ready to send it on out. And if you have any questions for me in the meantime, you can reach me at maria.m.givens@gmail.com. So always happy to answer questions or help you through this or point you in the right direction on something. But other than that, I think we're good. Thanks, Whitney.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Maria, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We are really thankful for your attendance, and again, we're here to support you. Thank you so much.